Hello, everyone. I'm Jim Garrison. I want to welcome you to this session of Humanity Rising. As among other things, we commemorate St. Patrick's Day today, March 17th. So if you're anywhere near an Irish pub in the course of the next 24 hours, you may want to sidle in up to the bar and order yourself an Irish whiskey and celebrate when the Irish saved civilization. Today is the commemoration of St. Patrick, who's the patron saint of Ireland. He lived in the 6th century. He was an extraordinary man. He was Irish. He was an adept in the Druidic orders. He was converted to Christianity, but he never quite gave up his Celtic roots. He traveled, he was a missionary. He came back to Ireland and began a lifelong campaign to Christianize Ireland. And one of the extraordinary accomplishments, I would say, of the Irish in their Christianization is that they never completely gave up their Celtic and their Druidic roots. That's particularly true of Saint Bridget, who was the nun, who was a Druidic priestess and a Christian nun, all at the same time. And I think that's why, if you read Cahill's book, How the Irish Saved Civilization, that was a particular characteristic of the Irish, is that they never lost their roots. They still believe in leprechauns and fairies. And if you've been to Ireland, as I have many times, you can feel the mystical quality of that land because they never denied it. And so I just want to celebrate the Irish and celebrate St. Patrick, St. Bridget, and the Irish people on this day. Before we begin, I want to also continue our conversations and reflections on what's happening in Ukraine. The world's attention is now focalizing on a phone call that Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin are going to have tomorrow in the aftermath of the Americans meeting the Russians in Riyadh and the Americans meeting the Ukrainians in Jeddah in Saudi Arabia over the last week. There's been conversation of a ceasefire, and Vladimir Putin on Friday in his the press conference, you may have noted it, said, a ceasefire, we need to think about it. We need to find out how exactly it's going to happen, what are the terms and conditions, who's going to monitor it. And in the meantime, we've got between 5,000 and 7,000 Ukrainian troops surrounded in the Kursk region, and they've got till 6 a.m. on Monday to either surrender or they're going to be destroyed. So that's where we are in Ukraine right now. There's conversations that swirl around, but the central reality, as I've said many times, when wars end, diplomacy that ends the war begins on the conditions on the battlefield. And the conditions on the battlefield are that the Russians are decisively winning. The Ukrainians have decisively lost. The Russians are pushing westward across all fronts. They've crossed over the last week or so the Oskol River on their way to the Dnieper. They've eliminated the Ukrainian troops from the Kursk region, all but at 1 or 2%. They've just taken Suzja, the last village that was claimed by the Ukrainians. And now they have thousands of Ukrainian troops surrounded, and Putin gave them till today to either surrender or be destroyed. And he talks to Trump tomorrow. So how this is all going to play out will be fascinating, heartbreaking, tragic beyond measure, because many more people will die on both sides, particularly the Ukrainian side, before this very tragic tale is brought to an end. But I think it is safe to say that we are now in the end game. And that's better than the beginning game, because the tragedy of war is that it wastes so many lives and so many resources and so much creative intelligence, so that when we get to the end game, at some basic level, we can all be thankful that the end, whatever it is nigh. So thank you, everyone, for joining us here on Humanity Rising. And now